are you all doing? Give me a big ol' I can hear you. I'll just scroll down until I see it. Hope you guys are doing great. It is November 12th, Wednesday. And can you believe we're halfway through November already? Thank you, Mike. I see you. Paish, right? Is it Paishi or Paish? No E at the end, right? All right. Anyway, I just wanted to say one thing before we get started. I know like last week someone said, oh, she's talking so fast. It wasn't during the live stream. It was on probably a replay or something. And I'm like, yeah, I know I do for sure. So I just wanted to remind people that you can, this would be on the replay, I suppose, or the live stream later or whatever. But you can, that little gear on the YouTube screen, looks like a little flower, a little gear. If you go in there, there's the speed. So you can set it slower than real. So I guess real is probably 1.0. And if you go less, you go more. So just wanted to share that because I know I talk fast and it is the way I roll. So anywho, let's see. We have Zoe Alexa. I know you did a lot of stuff on here, Zoe, and we'll definitely get to them. I just want to say hello to some people. Dimple, hi Dimple, good to see you. Enjoyed my coffee today, by the way. George Graham's in the house. Good to see you, George. Who else we got? Valerie. Thank you, Valerie. It's so good to see you. Deanna Houston, good to see you, my lady. Dolphin's in the house. That's RD, right, Dolphin? Mike Page, Steve 56. Thank you, Steve, for chiming in about being able to hear me, and Dimple as well. Half Pint's in the house. Good to see you, Half Pint. And Silk is in the house. Okay, so you guys all posted. Thank you. I know there's others out there that aren't posting, and that is totally fine. Most people just kind of sit and listen and watch, and some people just have their questions. So let's hop to it. In terms of like upcoming videos, I don't even know. I do know there was a video done for, and I don't know if the first one came out today, first part of it. It was on malingering. Someone had specifically asked for it in one of the comments, maybe on a different video or in the general channel area. And I kept meaning to get to it. And so finally I said, I'm getting to it. And it's about malingering, if they're going to think someone is or accuse somebody and all those things, and kind of how to avoid it and avoid the perception, even if you're definitely not doing it, because of course you guys wouldn't be doing it. So I don't know if, can you see Tasha? There she is. But I got to turn this way also. I'm going to tip over. All right. So she's not on her pedestal because I actually painted it. Not the foot part, but the rest of it, because she poops on it all the time. And it was plain wood, unfinished wood. And I just had to, how am I going to wash it? I keep washing it. And I don't know if that's good for the wood. So I just used some spray stuff that I had, and it's drying. And when it gets good and hard, I will bring it back out for her. Okay, so let's get to Zoe. Zoe, I know you had a bunch of stuff, and I want to thank you for your service, by the way. Zoe's a veteran. Zoe says, I'm a veteran that was awarded TDIU 100% PNT in September of 2025, so that's only a couple months ago, for PTSD due to MST. MST is, tell me if I'm wrong, Zoe, military sexual trauma. I was previously at 70%, and with an increased claim, they awarded the TDIU and 100% PNT. Okay. I am very sorry that occurred at all, of course. Zoe goes on to say, at the same time, my last CMP exam with the VA was August 2025. That's pretty recent. I have a private psychiatrist that I see as well. My question is, I'm 48 and will be 49 in February. I stopped working in 2023 due to my PTSD getting worse. I can still qualify for SSDI due to my DLI. Awesome. So what she's saying there is her DLI, date last insured, is in the future. And if you stopped working in 2023, Zoe, I would think that you probably have until end of 2028, barring any like big gap years in the more recent 5. My question, Zoe says, questions are, what should I send to the SSA? Both award letters for TDIU and 100% PNT award letters, or just one? You know, when in doubt, send them both. You know, they're not going to contradict each other, you know, and if they do, it's only because they're in, you know, maybe slightly different time frames. So I would just, when in doubt, send them both. Next question. Zoe says, I'm sending my CMP exam and we'll have them reach out to my psychiatrist to get records as well. What exactly should my psychiatrist send? You know, in my opinion, you know, psychiatrists have the power if the patient signs the HIPAA form to send the whole thing, psychotherapy notes and everything. Unlike physical doctors, mental health professionals have the power to not send everything like the physical doctors have to. They can withhold psychotherapy notes and only psychotherapy notes. Some of them get this confused and they think they can withhold everything, even the fact that you're even there. And this is when you've asked for them to release everything, including the psychotherapy notes. So they do have the power to withhold them. It was something that was carved out of HIPAA. I don't agree with it. I think if the patient wants it revealed to whoever, whatever confidential place like SSA they want it sent to, they should be able to get it. But the mental health profession did somehow lobby and get that big carve out for themselves, which is kind of sad because sometimes you get the feeling that they did it because they don't actually take notes and some of them are sleeping on the job. But aside from that, psychotherapy notes can really tell a lot of information from a humanistic point of view. And, you know, unless it describes you being some horrible, horrible child killer, you know, like in your own life, or a serial killer that could get you in trouble, you know, if it's just the trauma, even though some people don't want it sent to the SSA, I think it can be really helpful, in my opinion, because the people adjudicating claims are human. And I feel that, you know, because the psychiatric world is very indefinite, subjective, you know, some people will put someone as, he can't do squat, and meanwhile he's out running a company or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they'll set their whole diagnoses are so sometimes, you know, they don't have a lot of credibility, which is a shame, but that's because it's the brain and we can't put it under an MRI and read what's going on. I'm just turning off my phone. So I think some adjudicators have a problem believing when they say someone is extremely or markedly limited in one of these basic areas that the SSA cares about, particularly when you're under 50, Zoe. So sometimes I think if the adjudicator sees, not that they can hang their hat on it because it's not the diagnosis and it's not the provider's opinion on how severe the limitations are, but when they see the reason for why it might have happened, why there might be that severe PTSD and why it's as severe as it is, as it's alleged to be, I feel like that can help because they're human and they're not entirely stupid. So, you know, it's one thing to say, I have chronic PTSD and I have this, that, and the other thing. And I can't do anything, not even a simple job. It doesn't involve people, like I'm totally on my own, blah, blah, blah. But if they see what caused it, because everyone and their mother claims to have PTSD. And I say that like kind of like unhappily because, you know, there are, at the very least, there are severe differences. I mean, some people have a PTSD, they supposedly, I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm not the mental health professional, because they saw a car accident getting cleaned up by the highway workers over there on that other lane a mile back, and now they're saying I saw an accident, and then we have people who have had far more, and because different psyches have different levels of strength and everything, some people more fragile than others, I guess it can be, but I don't know that it's going to hold a lot of water, or it will hold less water if someone has the capability of showing them why things have gotten so difficult with PTSD, kind of showing how really severe the trauma was that brought that, can make it a little more focused and driven home. I think that's just my take. I don't know what you guys think. But on the same token, you have to be willing to let that stuff go to the SSA, which is entirely confidential. So, I would never not do it for any fear of lack of confidentiality. I think it can make for a stronger case. So that's up to you, though. I mean, when we send out them, they're always like, yes, and we want psychotherapy records. That's what my clients do. Doesn't mean the psych has to send them. For some reason, they are more adult than you, the patient, which I don't understand that at all. I think it's offensive and demeaning, but it is what it is. If they have something in there where you're talking about a family member and maybe some criminal something or other, I do understand withholding that and or redacting that. You're not trying to, because what if it's something that is a reporting requirement for somebody else? But if it's not anything like that, I kind of have a problem with them being your big brother and not letting you make the decision. I mean, you're a full-grown adult. You obviously are smart, and talented. So that kind of bugs me. All right. Zoe says, being my age, when would you send this info into the SSA? Now. You're trying to win now. You're not trying to wait till you're 50. I know you got a ways to go, so you've got a big, big burden. I would send it in now, because let's say you get denied, and let's say I don't know what stage you're at. I don't know if you said, but if you're 48 now, soon to be 49, did you say? Let me see. Am I imagining that, Zoe? Oh, yeah. I'm 48, will be 49 in February. I don't know when it's going to get to an ALJ. And if you get denied before the age of 50, you're going to refile. And you're not going to not send, you're still going to send in that stuff on a new claim. You're going to resend everything, basically. Plus, you're going to have all the new stuff, the continuing psych records, etc. So on the new claim, it wouldn't be because you can now go back and try to get them to relitigate the under 50 age period that you just lost, if you had lost at ALJ hearing. But it is a great perspective. You could still give them the historical perspective of how you this has been going on this long. So that's something I would do both. Yeah, the 49 doesn't really help you. If you were 49 in 11 months, perhaps it would, or 10 months, but all right. Moving on down. Yes, your age is definitely an issue. They have to find that you are at this stage. Well, I don't know what all your problems are, but if you're saying it's mental health, they have to find that you are completely unable to do a third grader job that doesn't involve the public, doesn't involve even coworkers, because those jobs apparently exist. Very occasional interaction with a supervisor, and low stress and no skills needed. Like a real simple job. And that's might be hard to prove, because it is. I mean, if you're agoraphobic and you never leave the home, like you're that bad, get good, solid, continuing proofs of the fact that you haven't left home in a year due to the PTSD. But if you're able to go to the grocery store, you're able to drive a car out on the roads, even if it's just local, that all goes towards a capacity that you have that might contradict the inability to do a simple job like the one I just described that doesn't have public coworkers, etc. All right. And again, I don't know what your mental health records say. So maybe it does say stuff like this. You know what I mean? Do the actual, and here's the thing too. If they ask the mental health professional to kind of quantify the limitations, the mental health limitations in terms of the basic simple work, you know, there are some things that if you have a substantial loss in the capacity to do them, all jobs are off the table. Simple, high, everything. This would include being able to perhaps get to work on time, get to work reliably, sustain a schedule, you know, on a sustained basis, interact appropriately with supervisors. You know, if you are going to lip out at your supervisor at any given time when they approach you or constructively criticize you, that can be a deal breaker for any single job. So if there's a substantial loss, which I would probably go so far as to say that the professional has to opine that you would be extremely limited in the ability to interact appropriately with a supervisor. Then if the SSA were to believe that your mental health professional is accurate and not just hyperbole type of provider, which some are, then that would be in itself mentally disabled from all work. It's a very high bar. So usually there's combined mental and physical, but again, under 50, it's a really high bar across, you know, it's across the board, but they do work. And it really will depend on what your physical and what your mental is. If your mental can't pull the weight across the finish line for 48 or 49-year-old, maybe combined with some severe physical impairments. But if you don't have severe physical impairments, that mental's got to be really bad. I almost look at it like you got to be completely provably agoraphobic, where it's not like you only sometimes can leave, where you really don't leave. Like I've had people who haven't left the house in years. And they, you know, they're afraid of answering the phone because they think there's something coming through the phone. Like really paranoid. It's usually combined with like paranoia and maybe a little delusional. But it's just a high bar. And how much her records discuss all these like all the time. This happened this week because you couldn't leave the house, or you couldn't do this, or physical or legal altercations or confrontations with people outside of the home, maybe even inside of the home. Those can be helpful. Outside the home, sometimes there's documentation that's not from you or a family member who they presume is pretty biased. You know, things like that can help prove. But all right. Zoe says, and I appreciate you posting this, Zoe, and I appreciate you posting it early. Right before I came, I tried to review some of it just so we could roll with it quickly for you. To be clear, my private psychiatrist is not part of the VA, so it's 2 opinions from the VA and an outside doctor. I think that's helpful. If there's 2 mental health providers and they're both saying the same thing and they don't actually work for the same company, well, that seems like positive. You know, it seems like it's harder for the SSA snapshot doctor, which is what the consultative exam is, to be taken as more reliable than your 2 treating consistent doctors. And the only way they possibly could is if your own doctor's day-to-day writings about you during your day-to-day visits or week to week or whatever it is, if they completely don't reflect what he just said in his opinion letter. You know, like sometimes, you know, a claimant will ask the doctor, can you sum up, you know, blah, 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 how bad off I am and stuff like that. And they do. And then, but it completely is not supported at all by their day-to-day, which says she's doing good, doing better, doing good within normal limits, has insight, has judgment on all these, you know, mental status exams. They do it every visit. So much depends on the details. The devil is in the details of those treatment records. It is the single most important aspect, I would say, way more than any opinion letter. Because again, opinion letters are, when you said, please write me a letter to show that I'm disabled, they know you asked for that. You know what I mean? They know. So, okay. Thank you for best approach in this, and thank you for all your time, what to do and what not to do. Well, you're welcome. I hope I'm helping a little bit. I know I'm giving it the tough knocks, Zoe. And that's only because I just feel like I have to be very honest and not snow anybody. It is a tough road. You probably already know that. You do have, they don't have to buy what the VA said, but they do have that stuff. And I do know the VA's conclusions. Now the VA, and I think I'm going to probably do a short video on this in the days ahead, going back to TDIU and SSD and how they can have different results. But it doesn't hurt that they do say it for sure, particularly if their VA records hint at it. SSA does not have to buy it, of course, but I think they have more reason than if you didn't have that, for sure. All right. And just to reiterate, guys, the reason why VA and SSD, even with I always say TD, IU, I always mix it up. The reason why they have differing results is because the rules and the way they evaluate admissible evidence is very different. So, SSD has a much stricter way of looking at it, I suppose. Zoe says, one more thing, not sure if this matters, but I wasn't getting any benefits or pay from the VA while employed in 2023. I stopped work due to getting worse and haven't worked since 2023. I don't know that it matters. I mean, for SSDI, obviously you can't claim to be legally disabled as defined by SSDI disabled eligibilities while employed and working SGA or more. So, am I losing my voice? Always happens, right? The raspy voice. I do feel like it's getting a little. So, whatever date you stop that, assuming that had been sustained in at least SGA, which you all know, substantial gainful activity, $1 black and white rule is in 2025 is $1,620. Okay. Oh, yes. These are just some things that were posted. Next week's live stream, guys, this will be the 19th. I have to do it at 2 instead of 1. I hope that doesn't hurt anybody. I have a doctor's appointment for my kid. And it's like an hour away. I just don't know that I can be back in time. And I don't want to be tempted to speed. So I figured, let me just push it till 2. And then for Thanksgiving week, the following week, we're actually not even going to do it Wednesday because I'll be driving out of state and back into state and to visit with my mom and my sister and her family, my brother-in-law and my nephews and nieces a little bit for a couple days. So I'm going to do instead of we're coming back on Wednesday, but I don't think we really want to be racing traffic. Wednesday's a very dangerous travel day, from what I understand. So we're going to take our time, and I will move the live stream to Friday, same time, 1 o'clock. And then, of course, just this is for if you need an eval, that's where you find it. And this is, if you can't get representation, but you still want to get some one-on-one consultation, there's the prepaid consultations. I think that's what the one is. Okay. Oh, Valerie was saying, good morning, everybody, or everyone. I'm currently at my local field office where having an appointment is more like when we feel like helping you. Aw, right? Sorry, Val. Let's see. Valerie says, I can hear you well, even though I have the volume low. That's because I have such a loud voice, right, Valerie? Some might say it cuts through your bone marrow. All right, Mike is telling me that I had it right. No E sound at the end. It's Paish. Never would have guessed that by looking at it, Mike. Never in a million years. Hello, Silk again. All right, we got Benny in the house. Benny DeMarble. Do I have that right, Benny? It's nice to meet you. I don't think we've met. Benny says, hello, what is a correct response if a judge asks during a hearing, what do you do all day? Is there a standard answer? Well, first of all, I would look at your function report because you were already asked that question on number 6 in your function report. It's on page 2, top of page 2. If you did a kind of like a poor job on that, you definitely want to think about this. What do you do all day? Do you, and I would emphasize what you do that is representative of your impairments. So for instance, let's say you have to go to your recliner. You're like in the recliner off and on all day. I would be sure to emphasize that, you know. But, you know, you could say, when I have to eat, I get myself to the kitchen and I usually have like a cup of soup or something I can heat in the microwave. And I'm just giving you examples of what may or may not be your life day, because every day is different. And, you know, some impairments don't physically abstain. They prevent things from a mental standpoint. So it can all be really different. There is definitely not a standard answer. If it was, why would he ask it? Right? I would describe what you do if you're spending a lot of time in, you know, watching TV while you're in the recliner, because maybe you have to have your legs elevated because of edema, swelling, and maybe your doctors have told you, you know, you need to elevate your legs all throughout the day. You know, get up and do the things you have to do. Like sometimes you have to do your dishes or wipe down your counter, or, you know, take the stick and clean your toilet. But or do laundry, you know, whatever it is, make it clear that then you got to go back to that recliner. If this is the case, see, I don't know what your situation is, but you want to show that, you know, because if you say, well, first I get up and I make breakfast and I love eggs and bacon, and I usually have to run errands. So I run out and run errands. And, you know, if I have time, I'll stop by my friend's house and say hi. Then I'll come back and I will check the mail, respond to anything I need to respond to. Then I start getting dinner ready for the family. You know, that sounds like a person who's not disabled and is just a stay-at-home parent, or maybe a nice, comfortable retiree. It doesn't indicate anything that is different from life from any of the things I just mentioned, any of the people I just mentioned. So you need to show how it is, how your life is different, and that it's not that way. All right. La Lulu's in the house. Hi, how are you? Valerie says, I thought having an appointment cuts down on your wait time. You know, it's shameful if it doesn't. So either they're scheduling the appointments too close together if you're still waiting after the time you were said, right? Like they do in doctor's offices. A lot of times you wait even if you have an appointment. Or, they're miscalculating how long the other appointments are going to take. This is my supposition here. Let's say they make an appointment for somebody, but either they're not asking, and I don't know if they ask you what it's about, so they can kind of gauge, oh, those things normally take X amount of time, or the claimant doesn't describe it well, or they just, or the claimant is mistaken, doesn't realize there's going to be all these tangential little issues once they see whatever they're there about. So sometimes the appointments probably take longer than was anticipated. Or some worker calls out sick. That's supposed to take some of the appointments. And now all these appointments are there and someone else had to do double time. Who knows, right? But yeah, I could see that could definitely happen. Yeah, Dolphin is RD. Nice to see you, RD. American Nomad. I am getting started on my form 3373. Guys, that's the function report, if anyone's not familiar with the numbers, and have been watching your videos and tips for filling out this form. Oh, okay, great. Thank you for those videos and for this live too. Speaking of the function report, you know, I have a playlist, guys, with each number is done in its own little video, so you don't have to sit through a 3-hour video on parts that you don't need help on. If you have any questions on any of those numbers, that aren't, that you think should be rehashed or something. It's been a while since I've done any of those. I mean, occasionally something comes up and I'll pop one in, but the overall, it's been a while. So definitely feel free to suggest, and I will, you might get your answer in a video that I'll put up. Okay. If you have a question. Sound good? American Nomad goes on. If you don't mind, can get to me in time. I have a question about the 3373 forum. I am at the federal level with my first case. Oh, you're a federal district court. So you were denied at appeals council, denied by ALJ, guys, appealed to appeals council. They declined to review, saying they didn't see anything that the judge did wrong. They're not saying not saying they find you disabled. They don't actually look to see if you're disabled. The role is to see if the judge missed a step or misapplied a step. So declined to review by the appeals council, and American Nomad filed in federal district court. American, I'm wondering, do you probably have a lawyer for that, or did you do it pro se? I have known at least 2 or 3 people who have filed pro se for FDC because they couldn't get a lawyer, and they won. And I got their case on remand. So, and they weren't my client to begin with, but I was like always so impressed because I've not taken the time to try to, figure out all the very different filing rules for federal district court. And I don't plan to. I just tell people, yeah, you can try this guy, this guy, this guy. But, I think it's great when people do it. I mean, you have to do a brief. They're very strict with time frames, blah, blah, blah. I think even font size, like you have to do your writings exactly, unless they're more lenient on, pro se's. I don't know. And also know that the filing fee for that, which is up there, I believe you can get a waiver if you're very financially strapped. So don't forget about the pauper. I call it the pauper waiver. All right. So Nomad is saying, or American Nomad is saying that he or she has an RFC, residual functional capacity, that my past doctor filled out. You don't fill out an RFC. You might have given him the generic residual functional capacity assessment form that is filled out by the internal medical records reviewing medical expert at the SSA when he decides what your RFC is based on all your medical records. But sometimes people do grab that and send it to their doctor. It's a very dangerous practice. And I have a video on that as why I don't recommend people do that. But you have to, let's see. Is that part of my first case's records? Yes. If you sent it in on the application that you were at federal district court for, every evidence that you sent in that was part of your ALJ hearing is before the federal district court. Okay. So you should have a copy of your, did they give you a CD? I assume you were self-representing maybe. Did you get a copy of your CD before your hearing so you could see, does the judge have all my evidence? Did I send it all to him? Did I just assume it was going to land in his lap without me sending it to him? You need to know what all those exhibits are, because that's how he supported his denial when he did the written decision. Yeah, so it should be in there if you've done all that. You look at your ALJ decision. Here's how you can find out after the fact, guys. If you didn't make sure you got a CD, or if you didn't ask the ALJ for a copy of your file before the hearing, so you could make sure it's up to snuff. Your decision where they deny you or award you, the last pages are the complete rundown of the exhibits. So you should, American Nomad, see your RFC from your doctor in there. It might not say RFC, but it'll say usually it'll say the date that it was signed as part of that list. So, and it's probably going to be an F exhibit. It should be an F exhibit. Can you hear those animals barking? Very annoying. By the way, I tried to buy a different headphone, guys, that had like a microphone, because I heard it could cut down on that. I don't know how much you're hearing it, because this is just regular bone conduction with a microphone, but it's not, I guess, the same. And I got it, and it arrived, and it was a little bit more expensive than this one, but I figured having 2 is not bad because I travel a lot. So maybe help in the car. I don't know. So I had to send it. I have it actually wrapped up to send back because you had to have a dongle, a little tiny USB thing stuck into your computer for it to go through the computer like I do now. And I'm like, I don't have enough ports for that. I don't want anything like this one. I don't have to do that. It just Bluetooths up with my Mac. So I don't understand it. You know me, I'm not techie, guys. I just kind of muddle through and find what I like and all that. So, and it's by the same company, which I really like. This is by Shocks. I'm not getting paid to say it. It was my first time using them and I really liked it. I think I bought it at Best Buy, but now I was buying it online and I was disappointed because I didn't realize that would have a dongle. I don't want a dongle. I just want just the piece and the plug and this one has like one of those magnetic things that magnets to your thing. And then you have it plugged into your, whatever plug it is. Love it. It's just awesome. Very convenient. So I just want that with that one and I didn't find it. So we'll see. American Nomad says, my question is, would it be wise for me to refer to that when answering this 3373 form in my new case? No, your 3373 is about you and your day-to-day activity, not what some doctor says he can't lift much. Okay? Don't be referencing that because now it's going to look like you don't even know what your own answers are. You know, it'll look like you really have no firm understanding. Like if you say you can't lift much, probably not true because he says he doesn't know if he can. He's just relying on what that guy over there said. So I wouldn't do that. That is in your file. You could, and by the way, you want to look at that RFC and do you know what levels of limitation have to be noted in there for it to be helpful to you under your vocational profile, your type of case, or do you not? Or did he say some things that actually make you a little more, make you very impaired, but a little more able than what SSA law defines as not being able to do any job? So you have to tread really carefully on those things. That is something you can put in your brief, of course. You know, and you know, look up this if you're doing a brief. But you said you're at FTC, federal level. I don't think you're at FTC at all, are you? You wouldn't be getting a 3373. Do you just mean you have a Social Security case? Because they're all federal. So I just went off on a whole tangent. But I hope you guys learned what happens after you get denied. Now I'm thinking, American, that you are just on the regular lower levels in the federal administration called the SSA. It's all federal. So period, from beginning to end, all federal. So maybe I was thinking you were saying something else when you said that you were at federal district court, which you would not be if you are doing a 3373 and you have a new case. All right. Pardon me for misunderstanding that. Oh, my screen is black. Can you guys see me? Now this is Dolphin. Can you guys, oh my gosh. Can you guys see me? I know Dolphin's saying he can't. And that was 10 minutes ago. I don't know why that would be. Somebody chime in. Valerie, American. Not that you really need to see me. You can hear my loud voice, but sometimes reading lips can help, right? When I talk fast. All right, come on. Somebody chime in here. Come on, there's 40 plus of you sitting around. Can you please just, nobody's saying it except for you, Dolphin. I wonder if it's you. Not you, your screen. My apologies. Valerie says, oops, let's go to George. Thank you, Dolphin, for alerting me to that. I hope someone else can answer me whether you can see me. Usually we're worried about hearing, right? George Graham, hey, bud, says, have any ALJs ever said you are doing a great job on YouTube helping? No, I don't think the ALJs are watching the YouTube. Yeah, I don't think they're going to say that. Probably better left alone. but you're funny. Valerie says, waiting for my ride, but it went great here at the office. Super. Valerie also says they were wondering why I had a payee to begin with. Oh, it's the... So Valerie went to the Social Security office with the appointment to tell them, I do not need a representative payee. Can you please remove? And she was able to get substantiation. If it's a mental health case, that's probably why, Valerie. If it was strongly mental health, it could be where on your function report you said you overspent on the part about how do you handle money. You might have said that you were really forgetful and can't remember to pay your bills. That would indicate that someone needs to do it for you. That would be an RP. I'm sorry, my seat is very annoying. I'm rolling around like a, what do you call those? A weeble wobble. Valerie says, now I'm concerned about triggering a CDR, even though I chose my words carefully. I am sure. Don't worry. There's always a CDR. You're getting CDR'd regardless. Didn't matter about this trip. So, or changing from RP. All right. I don't think that's how it works. If you were an entirely mental, if everything about your case was entirely mental, which I'm thinking it wasn't, Valerie, maybe, then perhaps, because to say that someone's entirely mental, unable to perform every single job based solely on some severe mental thing, unless, of course, like I said, let's say it's agoraphobia, you can still pay bills online, you know. And the fact that there's online banking really assists people with this whole thing. So I think there's less concern than in the old days when you had to write it on a calendar, keep your mail straight, write checks, put them in envelopes, address the envelope, put your return address, get the right stamp, and get it to the post office or out to your mailbox and put the flag up, right? So it's a whole different world now. It's so much easier. So the fact that you can do it is not necessarily indicative of squat. All right, so it looks like RD, Dolphin, I think it's your screen, but something's going on with it. All right. American Nomad says, yes, fortunately, I do have a lawyer working at the federal level for me, and another part of the same office is working with me on my new case. Oh, okay. So now I got some more clarification. Thank you, American. But they didn't really give me much info for filling out. Okay. Sounds like, tell me if I'm right here, American. You lost a case. It's up in federal district court. As we've said in other videos before, guys, once you lose at appeals council, you can now finally start a whole new application on the time period after the ALJ denial, going to the present. This is particularly important for people with date last insureds, DLI, that is after the judge's decision. If it's before the judge's decision, you can't file a new claim because you are no longer insured for the new period. If you are eligible for SSI, though, you could file for that because that doesn't require that you have a DLI of any kind because it's not insurance, it's welfare. So you could file for SSI if you're poor enough, even if you can't file for SSD because you have a date less insured and you're just not insured anymore. So you can't really file a new claim for a period that you never bought the insurance for. But it looks like you're fine with this, right, American? Oh, yeah. A lot of attorneys, American, don't give assistance on the function report. I know that's like a big thing that we talk about a lot. So I think you said you've seen the playlist. So any way that can help you, that's great. I wouldn't be talking about the RFC when you're supposed to be talking about, by the way, your RFCs from your old case. And no, that wouldn't, now that I've got a better understanding, all those things from your old case, they're at your federal district court case, but they are not in your new case unless the SSA sometimes pulls stuff up, but they tend to pull up the bad stuff. Like they pull up a CE exam from 2 years ago on your old case for your new case because it says you weren't disabled then. It's BS because now they're cherry picking. So you can resubmit that. Now, granted, it's only about the old time when you are found not disabled. So that old RFC you had your guy do, which clearly didn't work for you, may or may not be. I wouldn't submit it in the new case unless you know for a fact it supports what the law says you need to prove. Right? We've talked about this. Everyone's got, with different vocational profiles, we have to prove different things. Right? And again, the function report, the 3373, is not really the place for you to be pulling in, giving medical records, or my doctor says. No. What do you do all day long? How does it feel to your body? What can you do or not do? That's why they ask you what you're actually doing. And what can you do? You know? So that is not a doctor form at all. Zoe, you are very welcome. And thank you again for your service. Fingers crossed for you, my dear. Jessica Lovey says, new here. Nice to meet you, Jessica. I'm waiting for my reconsider appeal answer. Is it too late to get a lawyer now? No, it's not. Almost all lawyers will entertain. I assume you're denied on initial and appealing for reconsideration, or were you denied on reconsideration and appealing that by requesting a hearing before an administrative law judge? I don't know what you mean by answer. It sounds like you're in the middle of reconsideration and waiting for the determination. It's not too late. You should start looking, I would say, yesterday. And I would also say, if you're sitting not doing anything proactive to make your reconsideration better than your initial, you're probably going to get the same result. So you really need to start getting stronger evidence that will count for reconsideration, for the potential of reversing or having the initial changed on reconsideration. And if for no other reason, it will make your ALJ hearing stronger. You have to, you got to change the narrative, because what you submitted before or told them to go get whatever was not sufficient, right? So hop to it, Jessica. You could do it. All right, American. If you had American saying he doesn't have a CD of the entire file that he lost at ALJ with. I think that's what you're saying, right, American? That is a shame. If you had a lawyer on that case, they have a copy of your whole file. Now, I don't know if they use a case portal, client portal, to keep your communications good, but they can simply upload it there. It's a big, big PDF with bookmarks and everything for section A, B, C, nope, no C, D, E, F. And it's handy. And the F section will be all your medical records, the most important ones. So maybe reach out to your old attorney. Maybe it's still your current one. If not, worst case scenario, you can call the SSA and say, I need a copy of my entire file from this application, and give them the date you applied back then. I mean, sometimes we don't know the date they applied, and they go, we need to know the date you applied. It's like, how about just the one I did before this one? You know what I mean? Like, there's only been 2, and it's not this one. So that one, you guys have it. So not to get a little lazy. And they think that you're going to know all these little details, which is particularly funny when sometimes the date you apply isn't the date they have that you applied, because of protective filings and when you signed something and all that. Mike Page says, my dog says hi. He's barking at your dogs. Did he hear my dogs? Ah, yeah. And it's the trouble when you have more than one dog. They spur each other off. What I've been doing in the mornings is, because they all instigate each other to bark more, and I'm trying not to tick off the neighbors, now I'm letting one out at a time. So the 2 have to hold it. I let the one out and let them run around and do whatever. We have an underground fence. And then when that one comes back, I let the next one out. Then I do this at night. I don't necessarily do this during the day when they can just run around and be silly. And then if I hear them barking, I get my butt out of my office and I go yell at them, try to get them back in. But at night, yeah, because if they get out there, they'll be out there. Let's say I have to let them out at 11 o'clock at night, which I hate doing. But if I have to, it could be very loud. And nobody who's going to bed for work in the morning needs to hear that. Hey, Delia G. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. She says, you should be able to find a wireless headphone like the one you bought. Yeah, I have it. Well, I have this one, Delia. I want the one that supposedly it's a little bit more money, but it has a little thing that sticks out. And maybe it takes your voice more and has more. I'm doing it mostly to eliminate when the dogs bark. more than these do, because these apparently don't do a great job, it seems. American Nomad says, okay, thanks. I was just worried that they would use it against me if I answered anything differently than what the doctor put down. Well, yeah, they will, because if you say you're more able than what he said, then one of you's wrong. And they're always going to believe you over him because you live in your body. When it's going to be to your disadvantage, that is. You know what I mean? So, yeah, don't put that in there. Do not put that in there, in my opinion. Inheritance house flip. You got a scary face there, but it is that time of year, right? Oh, God. Under the sin. I disagree. So if you have something that you want to quote, do it someplace else, Inheritance. He's trying to talk about some Citizens United case. Under the Citizens United case, money became free speech. And I'm an aficionado of constitutional law since I was in law school. So when the SSA denies you, are they violating your free speech when you're disabled? No. Can you talk? Can you type? You're doing it right now. You've got free speech. Sorry, I'm not playing. Bye, Inheritance. But you're welcome to stick around. Thank you, Dimple. Thank you all for saying you could still see me. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, Super Bike Man, I haven't seen you. Oh, Earth One is here. Super Bike Man. Quinn. Hello, Quinn. I know another Quinn. I don't know too many Quinns, but so when you do know a Quinn, recognizable name. Thank you, Quinn, for answering that. American Nomad says, I am at the federal level with my first case. All right. Yeah, we finally got that cleared up. And once you are at the federal level, you are allowed to start a brand new case. Yes, that's true. If you still have DLI remaining, right? Or you're eligible for SSI. And that is what I was asking about, if it would be wise to refer to. Yeah, I think I answered it, right? I would never refer to a doctor's note in my function report. It's basically saying, I can't really attest to this myself because I really do run 10 miles a day, but so I don't want to say that. So I'm just going to direct it to my doctor. You know, like the inferences are just not good. I wouldn't do it. All right. Thank you, Crystal Holman, for chiming in. Nice to see you. No worries, American Nomad. It was all good questions. And I think it's an important question because you brought up a good point. People might think that they should refer to their doctor's stuff in their function report, but that's useless. It really is, and could be hurtful. Charlie Tuna, curious about buying a $1,500 bed for my son with back pay. He has been going to sleep specialist for a year now. Called SSI, but buying a bed that, remember, his stuff is for his own well-being. So yeah, he needs beds. I think it's totally fine. For sure. I don't even know why they would be vague. Save receipt, of course. The receipt is to prove you didn't spend it on yourself going to Jamaica or something. Well, you wouldn't go to Jamaica right now, probably, but you know what I mean? Like, the receipt is to show that you spent it in a proper way. Or not in an improper way. I mean, proper ways are a million things. You could take him out to dinner. You could, just don't pay for your own dinner with his food, his money's, right? Oh, that's okay, Dolphin. It happens. How about when I can you hear me? Anytime. So I'm glad you brought it up because just in case, what if everyone else is having the same problem? So somebody would have to bring it up. All right. So no worries, and you don't have to apologize for that at all. Jessica says, yes, I'm in the middle of reconsidering and waiting for a decision. Thank you. Don't be sitting and waiting. There is a video on all the good things you can do while you're on reconsideration to strengthen your case, Jessica. Maybe it's under a playlist called Reconsideration. Maybe, if I have one. Check it out. I think reconsideration is a great time for you to do a lot to further your chances of winning at all, much less soon. Both, okay? Oh, you're very welcome, American Nomad. That was my plan. Valerie said the gentleman even mentioned with the technology it would be possible. Exactly. She's referring to People that would have trouble paying bills before, now with automatic bill pay, you know, their Social Security or their SSI comes into their account automatically, and it directly pays the mandatory bills it has to pay. And hopefully the person knows what little they have left to spend on other things. But, right? It's so automated now that that would really be trouble for most people. I mean, yeah. Thank you, Dimple. Dimple says, don't forget to like and subscribe. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Virginia Gomez says, lost AC number 2. So she lost at appeals counsel. And my lawyer is going to, I'm sorry about that. My lawyer is going to fight when I can start my new case. When can I start? So it sounds like you're going to try to go to federal district court on the denied appeals counsel request. You could start your new case today. Yep. And incidentally, you don't have to use the same lawyer you used before if you don't want to. They will be completely separate cases. If your lawyer fights on, if he happens to do federal district court work, which is unusual, but it could be, and he wins on that one, it's going to come back to the one you started, and they're going to merge together as one combined case. And then you have 2 lawyers, and probably the one that had the original one that does the underlying would continue with the thing. I mean, he can get EJA fees going to federal district court. So, but yeah, then they would probably in some way, shape, or form have to do a fee petition for the fees on the new case and whatever. So that's just a technicality. That's a kind of a pain in the rear. All right, Delia says, just like the one you returned, but look for a wireless one. It was wireless. It just had a dongle, not a wire. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's advertised as wireless, and that is considered wireless. But I don't know why the same company doesn't just have it automatically be able to pick up from the Mac, like the cheaper. I mean, these are cheaper. And they were still kind of expensive. For me, they were probably the most expensive headphones I ever got because I always wanted the super cheap ones. But American Nomad said, yes, they absolutely use anything that works against you, but we'll forget about all the same thing that works. It's so true. I always say about the function report, it is so important to do it right. But it's not going to win your case. It's just going to prevent you from being able to deny because of what you said on it. That's why it's important that you do it right. And then later on, when you're at ALJ, same thing. But if the ALJ is inclined to award you because your evidence is so darn spectacular, he will use the good parts of your function report to help support his award to you. So you want to give him good stuff to do that with, and you want to make sure there's nothing bad in there. Inheritance. Once you lose your digital gateway, your free speech is mute. I'm not going to say it's mute, but I agree with you. We're going back to free speech, guys. If censorship, I totally agree with you if we're talking about censorship and deplatforming. Like I think AOC says how great it works to ruin politicians and take them out of the picture. Deplatform them. I agree with you. It's wrong. And because the internet and the big platforms, and this is just my opinion, are now the public square. They've gotten so universal that they are the public square. And I think now remember, free speech is only protected when the government is interfering, right? So in the cases that we've seen, the platforms, these would be the social media platforms by and large, were deplatforming people and shadow banning and all that at the behest of the government. So that made them an arm of the government. And therefore, in my opinion, it was a constitutional violation. And they would be, to me, liable under, say, 1983 or whatever, for that. If people are, that do that kind of work, we're inclined to go after them. So you can't just say, well, and it's true that if a private person, like I can say, you can't come in my house if you're going to talk like that. I have the power to do that. You have the power to do that to me. But we are not the government. And we do not control the public airwaves or the public town square, where everyone can come in and say what they want, be mean, be rude. That's called free speech. You don't make speech free for the nice people. You make it so that we can be rude and be ornery and be questioning and, you know, so otherwise it's just an echo chamber, right? So I will say that the digital gateway is not Social Security, so I don't know where you're coming in with that. Half Pint was just reassuring me that you could see me. Hey, Furry's in the house. Long time, I feel, right? How do they expect us to afford to buy things that can help us when most, if not all, goes to bills? I'm not sure who they is and or what the things are that will help us. So I'd almost, and I don't know if anyone has that expectation. So I'm not sure what you're getting at there, Furry. You have to be a little more specific. My face had Botox reaction. Oh, what are you getting Botox for anyway? Just use a filter on your digital, like I do. No drugs needed. Later? Oh, later. Later. He's always speaking confusing, guys. Sorry. Half Pint wants to know what percentage of the time would you say your clients are approved initially? I have not done that math, and part of the reason why I would say that's a minority of wins are not on initial, but we are creeping up on. I feel like 50% on recon or something because most of my cases do not go to hearing. So for what that's worth, so I suppose that's better than what's out and about. But we work on our initial recons. That's not like a waiting period where we're letting the cage just kind of sit around and let you flounder while we're connected to it, but we're not doing anything. We don't do that. I don't know. And one of the reasons, I mean, we're not even supposed to talk about percentages per se. Like an attorney can toot their own horn, but if you give statistics, you can run afoul of the fact that every case is different, and someone might take that statistic to mean, wow, 98%, I'm definitely going to win. Yeah, 98%. Okay, hair in my tongue. And I think our ethics, wants us to make clear that every case is different. So you don't really want to go on flat percentages, because that person could be in that little other boat there, right? But I will say initials probably tend to lean almost entirely in the older crowd, for the ones that do. And the reason why I think part of it's harder actually on initial than on recon, in a way, I mean, initial, there's more wins on initial, but once you don't win on initial, I guess I'm not even saying this right. People that come to me on initial, a lot of times they have not done the proactive treating. So the initial is going to be shot to heck because they're not going to be able to get what we tell them they need to do when we see the whole picture. By the time we tell them, you can see it. That's after we've been connected. We're in their file. We can see. They don't have time. That's going to be, they're making it, SSA is denied. So that's probably the big risk with initial. So the ones that do win initial, it's because they have a good vocational profile, favorable for that. And their stuff is extremely strong going into it. In every case, it's certain kind of cases, I should also say. American Nomad says, like YouTube, for instance, I have spent so much time in YouTube jail that I am now the shot caller. I'm not sure what that means. YouTube jail, huh? What are you doing wrong? Is that you making videos, or are you are people banning you from their channels? What do we have here, guys? Last week, the first time I ever actually had to take someone off. He was doing some sort of weird spamming about, we don't even know what. Nothing to do with Social Security, nothing to do with anything. And I don't normally do that. And as you see, I didn't do it to inheritance either. He's just a honey, I am big on this First Amendment is huge, as is second. Earth One says, how often does SSA check your medical if you have a mine criteria with 7-year diary date that extends past your FRA? They don't know. They don't tell us. If you're talking about them like poking in. But the question she's asking is, or hey, how often does the SSA check your medical? I'm saying do a CDR is basically what you're saying. They don't check your medical unless you have a CDR. If you have a MINE, medical improvement not expected, that's what MINE stands for. So she's saying she's saying the diary date is MINE, which is 7 years, 5 to 7. And that extends past your FRA. I don't think they're going to be looking at you at all. So unless you do something overtly unwise, like start working full time or over SGA, or, I think you're fine. Just my gut reaction. Ferry says, I got a prescription for something and then my insurance isn't covering it because nobody is going to accept it. You got a prescription and your insurance says it doesn't cover it. We have that all the time. Right now I'm trying to get, my son is supposed to be on, well, a few people in my house, on the long-term inhalable asthma medicine. It's not a rescue inhaler. They have that too. But the long-term preventive. They have a pill for that, and they also have this inhaler. So there's, it was Flovent, I think. And then it was Dolera, when one became non-formulary for the insurance company, and then they make you do this other one. And then that one becomes, they make you jump like idiots, and then when it's dealing with asthma and it's my child, obviously I'm going to jump, but I'm also going to B&M about it while I do it. So we're kind of in the middle of that now. It just stopped out of the blue. And unless there's a replacement, you're putting him at asthmatic risk. Are you kidding me? Don't make me become the mama bear. You won't hear the end of it. But I think what you're saying, Ferry, just to go back real quick, how do they expect us to cover our bills and the medications that our insurance doesn't cover? They don't expect you, because remember, your Social Security amount is the amount that you and only you chose to buy, in the amount you chose to buy it. So let's say someone made $30,000 a year and they have a fairly low Social Security disability amount after 25 years or whatever, and they become disabled. A different guy worked 60 hours a week doing the same unskilled work, but maybe had 2 jobs, or a full-time and a part-time. His is going to be much higher. He bought more. It's all about that. It's about the premiums that you buy, you pay for through your Social Security taxes that are on every dollar that you earn and pay taxes on. Up until right now, what is it, 180,000 or something? I don't even know. I don't pay attention to where you max out. They don't charge you Social Security tax on things over whatever the amount is this year, 180 something. So most people fall underneath that. So we're paying Social Security tax on every single dollar we earn. So the more dollars you earn, whether it's through not just working 40 hours a week, but choosing to work 60 for a bunch of years, that's how people can grow theirs if they're not just going to be high income earners to begin with. Like I said, their skill set is not up there. They didn't, maybe go to college or go to plumbing school and, earn a trade that would pay a high income. You have to do the high income in another way, which is a little more feet on the ground. A lot of us did when we weren't making, professional income, did what we had to do. Everyone's different. I remember I waited tables and bartended at night while I was actually growing this business 20-something years ago, 25 years ago. So you just did what you had to do to make your money, and report the taxes to some degree, as best you can. All righty. Sue Perez. Hi from Michigan. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you. Half Bite says, I was just looking at your website. Do you only represent people with a fee up front? I don't even represent people with a fee up front, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. I think you're misreading something there. The only thing you might be thinking about is if it's not someone I represent and they want a one-on-one attorney consult. That's how they pay for it, a prepaid consultation. But clients, appointed representation before the SSA, there is no upfront fee. Dimple says, my case may look like a hot mess. They all do, right? The hotter, the better for legal purposes, not for health purposes, right, Dimple? American Nomad says, commenting too much truth gets your right to comment on YouTube taken away for 24 hours. Oh, so YouTube did it? Or did the channel? See, I don't know how that works. I know, on LinkedIn and Facebook, particularly on LinkedIn, I've been shut up, sit down a few times. Not like some of my colleagues who are really good little warriors out there, but on occasion, like, I might hurt someone's feelings, like I care. It's funny, and it's definitely bias, for sure. You probably know what I'm talking about, right, American? Abundant mango. Oh, I love mango. I love all the beverages now with mango. I get the sugar-free ones only because, I don't know, don't want diabetes, and I don't think I'm at risk of that, though, for some reason. Even though my grandfather had it, I seem to have good blood sugars, but calories, really. But I love mango, abundant mango. And hello from Ohio. Hello back at you. AF Vet is in the house. Okay, he's clarifying. He says 185, 500 is the cutoff for SS tax in 2026. That's next year. That's the new one? Why did I think it was already that high? Huh. What was it in 2025, AF? You got that? Most of us, don't pay attention to it because we don't come close. You know what I mean? Yeah. Super S says, do you happen to know when I would switch to Medicare? Approved for disability October 2025. I pay out of pocket for health insurance. Okay. Yeah, let's go over this real quick. I know we have a recent video on this and a few other oldies, but just real super quick so you don't have to go digging that up, Sue. After 24 months of SSD payments, you are now eligible for Medicare, probably the following month. So count the payments. Some of them could have been retro. I mean, if you were approved for disability in October 2025, when did they find your alleged onset date, and when did they find the first month that was due to you? Because they don't coincide. Alleged onset date of disability does not generally coincide with the first date you're due benefits, largely because of the 5-month waiting period. So you have to look and see. You could see it on one of the award letters, Sue. It'll say the month you get you were due back if you got back benefits. If you don't have back benefits, it's going to be the 24 months going forward. So it takes longer. But sometimes people will rack up, all 24 months in the past, and they got a lump sum that included the 24 months of back pay, and they are already eligible for Medicare. In fact, they can be retroactively eligible for Medicare, in which case they have a decision to make about paying for those retroactive premiums too. And sometimes they want to, even though they can't use it retroactively, because they don't want to run the risk of being found to have not taken Medicare when they could have, and having a penalty premium forevermore of 10% per year that they didn't take it. Okay, that's a whole nother video. We have those up there too, though. But I hope that answered your question, Sue. I'm on SSDI. This is Furry, and getting original Medicare and Medicaid. Insurance had no problem covering the TENS unit, but the places that used to have them won't run it through insurance. They refused. So it's like, is that like a durable equipment type of outfit? I guess keep looking. Medicare doesn't cover it. They won't run it through insurance. They refused. I'd say keep looking. That seems weird to me, but I don't know. Some might not take Medicaid, but do they take Medicare? Does Medicare cover it? That's what I'd be kind of looking up. Because I would tend to think that companies love it when their durable equipment, if that's durable, would be covered because they can make so many more sales. because people don't want to pay out of pocket. So good luck with that. That kind of stinks, particularly if the TENS unit really helps you. You know, just, I know it's like a temporary thing. It doesn't cure you, but it gives you relief for a period of time anyway, right? American Nomad says, yes, YouTube does it. I don't make videos. I just comment and get censored a lot. That could be the channel owner, or sometimes I think even people report. I found a slew of comments that were close to my eyes under some tab. They're probably there now. I just got to figure out how to go back to get it. Where things were, I call that like shadow banned. It was somehow put in there. I didn't put it in there. I don't really do that. I let people be pretty mean to me because I figure, you know, do I owe them freedom of speech? I don't, because I'm not a government entity. However, I kind of like giving people enough slack so they can hang themselves if they choose to do so. I'd rather all the other people that are there see who the jerk is. You know, why should I be protecting them by turning them off? Now, it was different in the live stream last week because they're really interrupting with people's ability to communicate on here and get their question up there, because he was just going, you know. So that was different. That was interrupting our time here and annoying people. Annoying me a little bit, but I'm very kind of tolerant. But when it's interfering with the people that I love them being here, I mean, they make this whole weekly thing why it's so much fun for me. That I'm not going to tolerate. I will definitely protect against that. So 176.1. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's going up about 10 grand, almost 10 grand, 9 grand and change. All right. Why did I think 176? I think I was thinking 186. Again, when you're not in danger of breaching it and enjoying that upper income, you kind of ignore this, right? Sue says eligible April. Oh, okay. So you've got, wait, Sue, are you eligible for payment starting in April? Or was that your established onset date? Big difference. If it's your established onset date was April 9th, 2025, then your waiting period would be May, June, July, August, September 2025. So your first due check would be October. You've got 23 more months after October to collect, if that's what that is. All right. I know it's hard, particularly if you now have too much income that you can't get Medicaid that you were getting before. That's difficult. I kind of wish they'd give the same benefit to those people if their income is sufficiently low and their savings and stuff, and give them the same benefit that DAC people get on that. But I don't know that I'm going to see that anytime soon. Michelle M. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. Reminder for those changing insurances in January to make sure your treating providers are in network. Very good point. Yeah, very good point. And your prescriptions, right, Michelle? If you're on prescription medications, you want to make sure whatever you're using for that, they're still covered, maybe. I know that for the Medicare people, they have to look at that too, if they're on an Advantage plan. If they're on traditional Medicare and or traditional, plus they have a gap insurance for the copays and deductibles, they don't have to worry about that. I just confirmed this again with the agent that originally got my mom her gap plan when she lived with us years ago, when I thought it was a good idea for her to get it. And the beauty of traditional Medicare and a SUP plan, that most people cannot afford a SUP plan if they're disabled, because they can underwrite you a bit and charge you huge amounts. But my mom was old, so it was all senior stuff. Hers is pretty relatively cheap. And she lives with family, so her SS can actually go towards that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to go for her trying to feed herself. Yeah, so the only thing they have to check is her medications and the proper insurance carrier that they would recommend for that and put her on. Because anyone who takes Medicare will take her because she has traditional. And the gap plan's the same, because it's whoever takes Medicare, the gap plan will pay the balance of the copays. So there is some benefit to that. Now, people on lower income, or they don't have the benefit of having their income go to their health needs because they got to pay their rent, they got to pay their food. unlike my mom, they have to consider it. That's why a lot of people go on Advantage plans when they get on Social Security disability, because sometimes there's no premium. There's a lot of negatives to it. But if they're not traveling a lot and they, there is some benefits if you give up the other things. And there may or may not be copays. I think one of the risks too is that they can fudge around a little bit more about whether to approve something, whereas traditional Medicare, it is kind of carved in stone. Yeah. So I don't know which kind you have, Furry. Do you have an Advantage plan with your Medicare, or do you have traditional? I would think traditional if you have the Medicaid, but that way you probably don't have to worry about that. You can get the traditional to cover what it will, if TENS units are covered. And I can't really say, not my pay lane, but Michelle also says, just found out my oncologist won't be. Okay, so your oncologist now is not in your network for next year. They must have dropped out. But insurance may offer me a continued care option. Checking it out into it now. Well, you're the one to do it. She's really smart. She knows her stuff. She's medically savvy. Sue says, first payment November 2025. We'll receive retro. Oh, okay. So that's your first prospective payment, but you have retro, you're saying. Yeah. Find out what month is your first. If you tell me your established onset date, that should be in your, we found you disabled as of letter. That'll be your EOD. And then we probably would be tacking the 5 months onto it. And then the next month is your first back owed retro payment. And that counts towards your Medicare wait time. So Dimple says, when my husband was approved, they took restorative Medicare premiums for 9 months, and he was covered under my insurance. Took 2 months to get that refunded. Gotcha. So, okay, so this is what she might be saying, guys. They say, are you going to take Medicare? And they kind of assume you're going to want it to go retro so that you don't get a premium penalty later. However, one of the creditable coverage alternatives for those that have it is if you have a working spouse who has employer-provided health care that covers the spouse, the disabled spouse, because that is considered creditable coverage. Therefore, it is equal to or similar to Medicare level of coverage. So that is sufficient. And you can opt not to take Medicare and not worry about premium penalty later if that's the case. And that sounds like what Dimple's saying her and her husband decided to do. Keep him on her employer-provided premium because it was probably less than the $180 or whatever a month the Medicare would have cost him. Maybe she was paying, $100 total a month for her and her husband for the two of them. And his would be $180 alone if he was paying for his own Medicare. So that is one exception to the pressures to take Medicare. Of course, when someone loses their job, like if the spouse no longer works and no longer has spousal working family coverage and spousal coverage, even if they get retired coverage options, it doesn't count as creditable. So the person's still going to want to hop on the other. Hint, hint, right, Dimple? Jennifer Cologne, good to see you. Says, hi, Stephanie. I have a strong case, but I've taken a couple of trips, one to Disney. Sorry, that just had a gag there for a second. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was in a wheelchair and a cruise. I last tried to go to the beach and ended up in the hospital. Will this affect case? Okay. If he just hears that you were cruising around in Disney, yes. It might show up in your medical record that you went on vacation at Disney and they don't say anything more. What I would do, Jennifer, is, did you have special accommodations, I assume, with Disney? You went on a cruise too. Were there special accommodations for that wheelchair? If you have the writing pertaining to that, I would definitely grab it. And you can either submit it earlier if you know that they're going to know that you went to Disney, because people tell their doctors. It just always ends up being in there. And it just looks like they're having a good time, which I'm sure you were, but you weren't doing the thing. You know, you were probably being very restful. It was probably more restful than anything else, right? And yes, make sure you have those hospital records. I assume they're already in your file because it's part of your disabilities, right? I would get all the documentation showing that that is not a sign of, you know, that you are malingering everything because she can go to Disney. Show her that it was not. It was a disabled Disney trip. Hopefully, you can get some sort of documentation as to accommodations. If not, maybe did you take any pictures of yourself in the wheelchair in front of one of the well-known places? I mean, just, you know, just trying to get you think about ways to establish that this wasn't an accommodated. You are no less disabled down there than you would be in your own community. Half Pint says, that's worth a lot. Thank you. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Half Pint. Yes. Well, Jennifer, yeah. So I want you, it would be better to be prepared. If you have a lawyer on your case, Jennifer, I think you do. When they review every line of your records before hearing, hopefully well before hearing, make sure you tell them about the Disney trip and say, do you know if it's in the records? But I will say this, it doesn't even matter if it's in the records. The judge often asks, have you had any out-of-state trips? Have you gone on any vacations? Obviously, you need to tell them the truth. So since he's going to probably ask, I wouldn't say this 100%, but they often do. If you have already submitted that, or if you don't really if you can't rely on someone that would be reading your records, like law firm or whatever, to necessarily find it, and you're like, gosh, the judge may find it. They say they don't see anything in there, but what if the judge? You know, you could upload it, and then know what exhibit it's posted as, and it could even say accommodated travel or whatever, to prove. I mean, it depends on the situation of how I would get it in there, but or if it comes up at hearing and you haven't gotten it in there, perhaps when you answer the judge and say, I was, but it was very accommodated, judge. I was wheelchair bound and everything. You could say, Judge, I have, I would like to be able to upload the proof that that this was not like me running around Disney. This was literally an accommodated wheelchair trip with family, whatever. Usually we go because there's kids involved, not just for ourselves, but who knows nowadays with Disney being the way it is, maybe it's more of an adult place, adult entertainment, if you know what I'm saying. Anyhow, yeah, I would make sure to be prepared to show that wasn't, Thanks for the update, because I don't remember everybody's details, Jennifer. That's good. Been a long time. 7 surgeries and 55 years old. Like I said, we talked about this before, right? I believe you have a good case, but I'm always like very anal about just don't let that one little thing, right? Just in case. It takes a little bit of effort to make sure it's covered if it comes up. And obviously you thought so too. So good thinking, Jennifer. Okay, established onset date was April 9th. So what do we say? First pay day is April, May, June, July, August, September. Your first back pay is October. You're not going to get, in October wouldn't be due till November. I don't know if you're going to have any back benefits. Well, you weren't talking about back benefits though, right? You were talking about Medicare. I think you got about 2 years. You've eaten up to 5 months, so that's good. Instead of it being 29 months, which it would otherwise be, it's 24 left. Crystal Holman says, after a federal quality review, FQR, and sent back to the field office for a non-medical review, is this a positive sign? I believe, Crystal, that it is more likely than not that the adjudicator determination was to award you. It got pulled for audit. And by and large, those tend to be upheld. We have heard from a couple of people on here, I think, or maybe in some of the posts on the videos, the day videos, that they had the FQR and then they were denied. So it is in the realm of possibility. I just think it's rare because I don't see it much. And number two, you've already had a trained set of eyeballs say you're disabled under the rules. How many of those? I mean, if they were reversing a ton of those, that would mean they're not training their people well, and they'd have a big embarrassment on their hands. So I think it's a good chance, and my fingers are crossed for you, and be positive. Half Pint says, that makes sense. I'm just getting so exhausted with this whole process. I can't see being able to go through all of this again. Refresh me, are you doing it yourself? That is more exhausting than if you have a representative, I would tend to think. Well, I guess it depends on your representative, but Temple says, do you have any videos concerning hobby income? I might not, because it's one of those little risky things, Temple. I will say this. If it's pure hobby, and I know that's a very nebulous concept, particularly when we earn money from something, we sell something. Someone paints a picture and they sell it, you know. But the SSA will probably, if one is earning income from it, particularly if it's more than just what's covering their expenses to engage in the hobby, sometimes the pain of it all is it's not going to be a problem in the big sphere, but you got to fill out a bunch of forms. You've got to get a bunch of documents, and you have to get them to the point where they say, okay, that's just a hobby and that's de minimis. So that's where it's like, oh my gosh, you buy yourself a lot of work time, you know, because, you know, oh my God, they're going to make me do this, this, and this, and this to come to the same conclusion I know they're going to already come to. So that's just part of it. And by the way, if someone has something they consider a hobby, but they are netting $5,000, $10,000 a year, even though it's under SGA, it's going to be self-employment probably, because hobbies can be self-employment. My hobby is you guys, and I have to report taxes, and it's considered work. So you have to kind of be careful. And then remember, self-employment, there is a thing to consider about if you're doing it over, I want to say 10 hours a week, because it's 45 a month. And some months have, well, the average is 4.3 weeks per month. You could easily be going over that 45 hours a month, where it's kind of substantial now under the rules. Self-employed, because I know you can screw around with monies, and you have business expenses and stuff. They also look at the hours, and if you're over 45 hours a month or hit 45 hours a month, it's considered, I think, substantial. The rules get a little confusing, but so if you're doing a hobby, make sure it's well under 10 hours a week, as well as squat for income. American Nomad says, okay, I have to get back to filling out these super fun, awesome forms that I love so much. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you. God bless everybody. You too. Thanks for popping in. H is in the house. Hi from Arizona. Thank you for all your help. You bet. My pleasure. Abundant Mango says, I should apply for SSDI 2 years ago. Yeah, but you know, the first 17 months after you're disabled is kind of like a freebie, for what that's worth. Abundant. Because if you file within 17 months, now granted, you're talking about 24 months, but 17 months, that will all be covered in back pay if you allege an onset before then and you succeed in proving it. 24 months, yeah, you're going to lose a few months, but 17 months, as long as you get it all done within 17 months, you can be protected. So just a word to everybody else who's thinking about applying, hasn't applied, and if the months are going away since what would be your alleged onset date, and that's also a nebulous concept. Not very infrequently do I change someone who comes to me and they've already applied and all that, and they have a particular onset date. I will sometimes request an amended onset date because they could have said it was earlier. This can help for later Medicare coverage, come sooner than those 24 months we're talking about. Could get them more back benefits. They didn't realize that that last job was an unsuccessful work attempt. The one that they thought, after that job was done is when they said their alleged onset date was. But that job only lasted 3 months, and it got destroyed because of their impairments and problems. That it could have been the end of the prior job could be their alleged onset date. So just something to think about. Okay, Half Plate says, okay, now I get it. Thank you. I think you're talking about the fees, right? Yeah. Clients and non-clients, totally different story. Mango says, chronic nerve pain in the gut. Ouch. The gut. Someone who's had gallbladder issues. I don't even know what yours means, but I know what gut pain is. and I kind of run the ulcer around, I guess. I think I take after my dad. Anyway, bipolar, sleep disorder, damaged wrist, and good statements from previous employers. Failed work attempt, 44 years old. Yeah, your age is going to be a difficult one. So it's really going to depend on the really extreme severity noted in all his records that would keep you out of every job, including the ones that don't require a lot of wrist use, and including the ones that are simple third grade jobs from a mental standpoint. It's hard. I wish you the best with it and better health too, Mango. I'm going to call you Mango instead of Abundant, okay? Mangoes are so good. It might be like my new favorite fruit. Virginia says, question, if not seeing a rheumatology, will that hurt fighting SSI knowing I didn't know what that was 10 years ago till now? Now I'm getting referral again for, SLE. That would be systemic lupus, yes. A rheumatology and heart. Okay, it's gone there, but okay. Well, you get a rheumatologist now, right, Virginia? Get a rheumatologist. I mean, are you getting a rheumatologist now? I would think so with the lupus. So yeah, you might not. If you're not diagnosed until now with the lupus, and the lupus is the hair that broke the camel's back and gets you disability, it'll probably be the date you're diagnosed. In the medically acceptable way of diagnosing. So, and that may or may not be a rheumatologist, or maybe it was done before by maybe a PCP, followed all the things and could diagnose. I think they can. Jennifer Clone says it was a Disney trip, then a separate vacation on cruise. It was so 2 vacations. I had accommodations, but no documentation. Yeah, good luck. Do the best you can. You might get, I don't know who all attended with you, but you probably have pictures. Or did you pretend you weren't in a wheelchair and stand up for them? People do. You couldn't get it. You can do an SSA 795 form where it's probably family or friends, so it's not going to be as ironclad, but they could say, we did go on vacation. We went on 2 vacations. We specifically chose them because she could be accommodated with her wheelchair, and that there was no sightseeing and there was no, the trip around, she was pushed in the wheelchair or she had electric. In the cruise, there was no sightseeing. We didn't go stop off at the port and go wandering around town shopping or whatever. Maybe you did, but you were in a wheelchair. Whatever it is, you can probably get someone else to attest to it. That's not going to be ironclad. They don't have to believe that person. That person is biased, but, it helps. And the judge, if he wants to award you, will probably choose to either not mention it at all, or if he does, rely on it, saying that it was accommodated. He finds that to be entirely credible. And if your medical records at the same time that you're going to these Disney and the cruises, they all show that you're wheelchair bound, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's when people don't have that, when it's a problem. Yeah, lots of room and time to rest. Oh, Jennifer, okay. Jonathan is your lawyer. Good for you. Yeah, you're in good hands. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You know, he might not think it's a big deal at all. But going back, you probably have medical records that show that you were wheelchair bound at this time. And, you know, it's not like you suddenly become wheelchair bound because you're going on a vacation. There are wheelchair bound people that come on vacation. So I think that would be, assuming you had that, documented in your medical records that you were wheelchair bound at that time. I don't know that it's going to be a problem. But just want to double check these things, right? Because that is evidence, the medical records that are at the same time, right? Thank you for all your help. Can't get to. Well, if he's like me, I have people that, like the occasional client who kind of wants to speak to me when we have really a lot of communication through the message portal, but they just want to have the time like this. And if it's not case necessary, we tell him or her, you have to give the questions you have, give the concerns you have, put them in a message. We like everything in writing anyway. It's good for confirmation of what the person said, what we said, because people's memories are really, really poor. And it's good for our files, it's good for our insurance company, all sorts of things. But it also helps to make sure that we're answering the exact question. And then if they don't think they got an answer, we can say, look at April 9th. It was right there. So our advice generally is, and this is because I will always be calling them on things I need, whether it's working on a function report, working on a work history report, they're going to be talking to me. But if they just out of the blue want to, for whatever reason, that's not really, we're not getting paid by the hour. So people have to understand that they're not going to be able to dictate the hours, right? It's contingent. It's that's unpaid work. So no, they're not going to be the boss about when they get to take my ear. So our process is email your questions. It's either going to be someone on the team is going to answer them because they're super easy. Or if it's something that I need to address, they know it and they're going to get it to me. So, and I'm reviewing them all anyway. Every single thing that comes in on there that's been addressed by someone so they could get response to the person same day or shortly thereafter, I review all of them. So if they made a mistake, I would be correcting them. That is, gosh, if that's 5 times in 10 years, I'll be surprised. And because I review them on a daily basis, if there was to be a correction, it would be happening so fast. Because doing that kind of stuff, I can do that even when I'm in a boring meeting, right? So they're going to get a response and oversight, even though they're not getting me on the phone. Now, if it does require a phone thing, which again is pretty rare, then our general way of doing is message when you are unavailable all week long. And when Stephanie gets an early out from something, like let's say I got out of here early today, it's 2:44. Let's say I was blowing out of here instead of at 3. I have 15 minutes. Whoever said they didn't include that as an unavailable time, 2:45, that wasn't blocked out, they're getting my first attention. And that's if it hasn't been already addressed by message. So the more available they are, they're not working. So presumably, aside from doctor's appointments, and nothing too early in the morning their time, and nothing too late our time, they're going to get a phone call, and you get sometimes you get the occasional person, not usually a client because they know better, but a person who wants to be a client who will say, I'm available from 2 to 3 on Friday. Please call me. It ain't happening. The chance of their little window of time lining up with my free availability, because we have a very busy schedule here, but I do have multiple free times because we schedule things wide so that there is always going to be time to make phone calls. That's how we do it. We schedule hearings wide. I'll schedule off 3 hours for a hearing when I know it's going to be an hour and a half. Yeah, so that's how we do it. And that's how we get everyone taken care of. But if someone says, no, I'm only going to interact by phone, then we're probably not the right firm for them. The reason why we have the case client portal is so that 24/7 we can all be interacting, and not requiring that someone be sitting waiting for a phone call like me, or, or, oh no, I can't, I can't let the information go on message because the person wants to speak to me. It's just not the way it is. I don't know how you guys do it where you're at, Jennifer. If they use the portal messaging to the extent we do, I mean, we are extremely heavy with it, extremely. And I'm proud to say that as of today, right now, there was no outstanding messages. I think some probably have come in while we're doing this. But I was really psyched because I know I felt like there was I was 4 or 5, it was really getting long. Like we were having, things have been so busy. It was with hearings and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, they're all gotten to. All right, good. We're all caught up. Crystal says, thank you. I appreciate your content. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, Crystal. And please definitely visit whenever you want to. Dimple says, I may just hold off from the hobby side gig for a while. It's really less than 10 hours a month, but I just prefer to avoid the hassle. I totally get it. Virginia Gomez, number 2. Ooh, sorry, Virginia. Will my second SSI fight with seeing a rheumatologist? Okay, so you were denied and you have a second case, Virginia? Oh, can't remember. With seeing a rheumatology for my SLE, will that help this time for my case, knowing I've been going to the doctors years and years? I can see now I was seeing doctors. I think specialists are always better than limiting yourself to a non-specialist general practitioner. I mean, by definition, they're higher credentialed. I think it also optically kind of shows that your symptoms are bad enough where you're actually going to get that specialist and go to that specialist. They usually have a higher copay. You're willing to buck it up because your problems are that bad with that particular impairment. So, as opposed to having just mild symptoms, because some is mild, right? Ooh, Antonia Salas. Am I saying that right, Antonia? I don't think we've met, so nice to meet you. What if I got approved for disability in June, but just did my 2024 taxes in October? Do they have to recalculate? Yeah, they're going to recalculate every year you work. So if you're disabled and working part-time, even like going forward, they're going to recalculate all the time to increase them incrementally or whatever. Yeah, it's all good. I mean, it can't hurt you, right? Unless, of course, you were working after your alleged onset date and it was SGA for an extended period of time. Hey, James. James Cavell. Am I saying that right, James? I forget. Nice to see you again, by the way. I don't have any questions, but enjoyed your content and appreciate you taking the time. Well, thank you for saying hello. I appreciate it. MD77 says, I went to PT for right leg, foot radiculopathy, and lower back pain. Got medical records after 3 visits, and it says right side. I told physical therapy. He said, can't change, but would record it as right going forward. I'm not like confused about what the question is, but you have more down here. Oh, that's just minutia. I wouldn't worry about that, MD. He's saying the last visits have all said lower extremities, but he's saying it's predominantly right. That's fine. It's both. They're never going to be equal. They're both impaired, sounds like. So I wouldn't worry about that minutia at all. Jennifer says, I'm not wheelchair bound, but used one on the trip. It's not, medical records. I haven't spoken to him once since I heard him. Yeah, you're just going to have to describe it. Do you walk around a lot? Do you have a cane? Do you have problems walking around far? Why were you using a wheelchair when you don't otherwise need one? It's obviously a lot of walking at Disney. Do you have a cane otherwise? If you go to the grocery store, are you able to walk 5 aisles without assistance? Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to say it was I was lying down at the resort. I wasn't, and when we went to we went out in the park. I actually used one of those scooters or wheelchairs or whatever. I mean, you just have to testify as to what's truth. You just got to do the best you can. I don't know that should harm your case, given your vocational profile. So it's probably okay. And cruises, don't we just like lie down and sit on a lounge chair? I don't know. I've never been on one. It's my dream one day. Oops. We've already done this, right? Mango says, I honestly don't know if it's worth applying because I'm 44. Well, can you work another job full time? And will you self-sustain? I mean, it could be where let's say you can do something now, and you don't have any grids that help you not have to carve those out. But you have a condition that you think is going to deteriorate over time and get worse. Maybe it's back or whatever. Sometimes and I don't want to say not to file, because if you're disabled, you're disabled. And I don't know if you're legally disabled. But sometimes trying other things that are more genteel, if it's physical, can work and buy you time. And when you're keeping your DLI extended out, you always, and then as you get closer to 50 and hit 50, closer to 50, if you think, I think I have the goods now for an under 50 award, even if you lose, you can refile because your DLI will now be, say, 52, and you got 2 years of a better grid. It's hard to say. It's not always best to just go and file without looking to see if there is something you can do that's less arduous. It might be less pay, but we do have to generally downsize our spending anyway. You would have to do it if you were filing for SSD and not working, right? Unless you're independently wealthy, but most of us aren't. Virginia says, thank you so much for your help. May God bless you and your family. Thank you. I could use all the blessings for sure. And yours as well, Virginia. MD says he went to PT for low back pain and right-sided lumbar ridiculous. I think we already did this, right? Mango says he does have severity documented medical records and continue to do so. Does it eliminate all 12,000 occupations? You have to literally figure out which impairments and which documented severities that are repeated, because it can't just be a snapshot of a severity. It's got to be ongoing reflection, and carve out all the things for all those 12,000 jobs. That's basically what you have to do. It's a nitpicky thing. It doesn't happen overnight. Have fun with it. And use an attorney if you can, or a good non-attorney rep for sure. If someone will take you, that is. Half Pint says, I was going to do it myself, but I'm considering having you represent me. I've been watching your videos while filling out the function report. It's just very overwhelming for me, causing a lot of stress. I understand. And I think we either spoke or we're going to soon speak, correct, Half Pint? And see if we can potentially do that for you. Dimple says, thank you so very much for all you do. I'll still keep sending you coffee, though. I love coffee. It would be more fun if we had a little coffee time together. Maybe we can Zoom and do that, Dimple. That would be fun. Okay. You're welcome, Antonia. Oh, that's okay, MD. Don't worry about it. I think we've covered you, right? Oh, James. Super sweet. Super sticker. $3. Go towards our 1%ers. Thank you. They thank you too. Abundant Mango. I definitely cannot work just living off of savings, and that's going to run out, Mango. See, yeah. Then you may as well apply, but you may as well be applying, because even if you get denied, you're no better, you're no worse off, right? And maybe you'll win. And then you have to make sure you keep up that you have to be really aggressive. Make treatment your full-time job, even if it's not full-time hours. Danny. I don't even know. Is that Danny mating? Oops. Danny says, do you have an opinion regarding the SSA looking to get rid of or changing the grid roles? There's actually no evidence of that yet. Just speculation in the media. Eliminating the advantages for people 50. Yeah. Yeah. Show me some credible, authoritative citations to that, Danny, and not just some regurgitated media from the political media we have out there. And I'll definitely be happy to review it for you. As of this morning, there is nothing coming from the SSA that says they're doing that. Now, I do have other videos on, since as far back as 2003 or 2005, it was officially on the plate to be done in 2005, but it was voted down by the powers that be. In terms of the SSA retracted it, I guess, and didn't pass it. Because when they do propose rule, they have to get comment. Part of the protocol is it goes up for public comment. They want to hear the input, and that helps them decide whether to implement. That was shot down years ago. It has always been up there as a consideration since then. Yep. And right now, what I know is being considered is what started a couple years ago. And the first part, it was called the interim, got passed. That was changing. This is all about figuring out what is past relevant work. How does past relevant work affect us? And that's what these grids do, right? So the first part was changing, and this was huge. This was such a blessing. It was the biggest thing I ever saw in my entire career with SSA, and now I'm going into my third decade, right? If changing the 15-year look back rule for past relevant work to 5 years, huge, 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 huge. Did I say huge? Then the next part, this was already started under the previous administration. They want to update the sources that they use to decide what jobs actually exist in substantial numbers today and what are their duties. Because as you know, they were relying on the Dictionary of Occupational Titles, and that had not been updated since like the 80s. And can you imagine how many jobs are different between now and the 80s? Some require heavy computer use, ability to use a computer, you know, that some people are not going to be able to do. Some of the automation stuff that you say, well, it's easier because it's automated. Yeah, but they have to be able to do computer work now, right? And if someone is not able to do that, or it's not something that can be learned in less than 30 days, well, then that would be considered a higher skilled job. So I think now, on the same token, some jobs that were super hard before are easier, and they might be more available to people that wouldn't have been able to be found to be able to do them under old descriptions that no longer exist. So in that way, it could be hurtful, right? But it's, I mean, what's accurate is accurate, and I just want it to be accurate. Do I want people getting SSD who are able to do another job? I don't. You know, I'm not the person that says everyone should be on disability, whether they're disabled or not. That's not how I roll. We're all paying taxes, whether it's SSI or SSD, and there is a reason why there is a criteria. Now, going back to it, I have not seen anything to suggest that they are changing the grids or proposing to change the grids. Is it possible? Absolutely. They've been proposing it for 20 years. So could there be something that they haven't said? There is, but there's been no evidence to suggest that anyone in the administration has done that in terms of the grid age changing. All right. Know this too. And I feel like I'm repeating this because it comes up a lot and people haven't obviously watched the other video. It's not that old, but the fact that age has to be considered is mandatory by Congress. It is in an actual statute. They cannot eliminate age consideration in SSD unless Congress makes a law that says so. And the chance of that, I think, is very, very slim. However, the grids are not mandated by Congress. They could, they just don't. So whether or not they ever choose to, I don't know. The grids were manufactured by the agency itself. It's how they implemented Congress's requirement that they consider age, right? Congress said, you must consider age, figure out how to do it, and do it. So the agency does have the power to alter the grids. It has done things in the past. Maybe what year was it? I want to say 15 or 16. That administration, SSA, altered the sequential evaluation process consideration by allowing them to skip step 4 if they knew the person was going to be denied at step 5, based on other work versus past relevant work. I found it to be a harmless change. It didn't bother me at all, because if a person's going to be denied anyway, yeah, why spend time figuring out step 4 if they're already going to lose at step 5? That's resources, that's taxpayer monies, that's monies coming out of the fund. Why do that? So again, can any administration change the grids? Sure, they can alter them. I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. I do think there's the secondary part of the first part interim of the 15 to 5-year rule is coming up. I thought it was going to be published in December, like the proposal. And that would for sure, I think, if I'm hearing right, be certainly about getting the better resources, about updating the jobs that exist, since so many of them don't exist anymore. And people are being held accountable for them, and that's not right. Whether there's going to be an age thing in there, I have not seen anything credible to say that there is, but the agency always has that power. Always. So could it happen? Could they throw up another proposal? They could. They've done it before. Yeah, prior administrations have done it. So we will have to see. I just haven't seen anything credible to suggest it. I've only seen speculation, which they do every time they want to denigrate anything, right? Let's make the people afraid. So all the articles I've seen, and if you have something to the contrary, you can definitely share it to me. All the articles I've seen so far, and I haven't looked in a few days, I will say that, all have no witnesses from the administration saying it. Not a one. They'll just say, we've been hearing, well, from like your auntie. I mean, come on. So this is where I go. Everyone here knows me. Like, I don't go with the speculatory YouTube things or the articles until because I read the articles line by line, and I pick out, and I have some colleagues that do the same, where there's an actual statement being made versus this may happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Martian could fall from the sky and crush the grids. A lot of things could happen, but until they say this is happening right now and here's the evidence, I can't do it. You're going to just spin in circles around yourself and never get work done, and unnecessary anxiety and a million other things. So I don't go with it, Danny, if that makes sense. And I do have a daily alert that will tell me if anything has been proposed by SSA in terms of, we are going to put up this is going to be part of the proposal that we want everyone to talk about. And when that happens, I will share it too, because I don't want the grids to change at all. I don't know what administration it was that changed the full retirement age from 65 to 67. That was really hard. I think people are unhealthier now, not healthier. So making them have a later full retirement age, I think is cruel and unusual. And I don't think it goes with science. I understand they did it for financial reasons, but I think they can do better. And that's not the way to do it. Make the system better. Don't start artificially, advancing retirement, ages and whatnot, So anyway, that is my response to that, Danny. I hope it was sensible. All right, I'll talk to you, because I do agree with you. It seems unfair as work gets harder with age. Absolutely. So talk to you later. Mango says, I often only get a few hours of sleep due to chronic nerve pain. Then you should be going to a sleep specialist, right? At least get it checked. And you obviously probably have pain management and a neurologist, right? For that nerve pain. Very important. You bet, Danny. Danny says, thank you, but that was before I did my hefty response, probably. I don't know. It's probably more than you asked for, right, Dan? Okay, MD77 says he or she has low back pain. Physical therapy wrote, I had difficulty urinating. Oh, that blows. Never said that, only that I had pain, coughing, sneezing, and if any, straining during number 2. Who always said that then? Where did he get that from? I mean, it's not going to hurt you. It's an added impairment, really, but that's funny. Half Pint says, by the way, we're over 2 hours, guys, but we'll try to get all through these. I responded to your email, by the way, and I'm hoping to hear from you this afternoon. Okay. Then, all right. Then, did I email you this morning? I'm thinking I know who you are. I know you've told me because I knew when I saw you that we'd interact. I just didn't know which one because there's a few people that I have to call this afternoon. Lumbar radiculopathy. David Carlin, nice to meet you. I don't know if we've met before. Okay, David is 58 and on a reconsideration and was told I am in federal quality review. Is this a good sign I'll be approved? I don't know if you heard the earlier person I responded to. Exact same scenario, except maybe not 58. Maybe not even recon, I'm not sure. But I think it tends to be, quality reviews tend to, by and large, go the right way. So I would say that's good. Danny says, yes, they were looking at 15 years still when I was approved a couple of years. Yeah, it only changed last year. When I was approved a couple of years ago. Thanks again for your insights. I appreciate you doing this. You're welcome. And fingers crossed they don't screw with the grids, right? Oh, because the slit wants to know why your eyebrows are, because if you look down, my hair is pretty dark, right? Yes. My hair is a very, very mousy brown for sure. And I also wear mascara. Slit, in case you didn't know what we girls do. So yeah, I get my hair done and I have some grays in there too. You probably can't see them right now because my hair is light enough or whatever, but yeah, at my age, Slit, it's all going downhill from here. Reagan administration, I think you're right. Was it like 83 or something? I could be talking out of turn. And who knows, maybe in 83, we were still pretty healthy and longevity was positive. We were able to live older with more quality lives, but doesn't it seem like whether it's the food crap we eat or the water or the screen time and the mental, like all the stuff in the social media, I feel like we are a way unhealthier population. And I will say this too, if online time is like people that are like gamers and stuff and addicted to social media all the time, if that causes I don't want to say mental illness, but yes, it could, but also strain and stress and anxiety, that stuff all affects our physical health. I have no doubt about it. So physical can affect mental and mental can affect physical, and it's all definitely wrapped up. So that would stand to reason, Danny, wouldn't it, that maybe we were better off in 83 and like, not that I wanted it to be, not that I even knew what happened back then. I was like a teenager and I was very self-absorbed, but I didn't even know what Social Security was. But it could be that they didn't see it that way like we can see it now. Like, how many people are becoming disabled before even 62? I bet you it's gone up a lot. I think we're definitely way more unhealthy. So what is that? Over 40 years ago, 83, right? Yeah. It's almost half a century. So I think it's definitely different now. And so they shouldn't be raising anything. Like, let's say they wanted to raise FRA to 70. That would be horrible. Horrible. Oh, you're welcome, guys. You're welcome, David, Danny. Yep, 1983. It's outfish. You could outfish me. Stress. Yeah, it's a killer, right? It is. I think my ulcerous nature is impacted by stress. It's fine right now, by the way, guys. I do stress relieving things, as you can imagine. Oh, Danny Ray, how are you, buddy? SOJ, I just snuck in class. No more talk about grid changes. I'm worried again. Yeah, but did you hear what I said? Re-listen to it. Don't worry till you have to. Don't. Everyone's seeking. I don't know. People are seeking worry before it's even warranted. So I just wish we didn't do that, because it's just hurting us, and it's hurting everyone who has enough stress on their plate out there. James Cavell says, I kind of wish they would use my last 15 years as a roadmap of regression, considering I left my career. Oh, that doesn't have to be at a hearing, James. They can look at that for other reasons. They just can't hold you to it and hurt you by it. So, your lawyer, if you have a hearing or something, can say, he was a high income, high skilled worker with a high income for years and years. And if you look at his history, because the judge does have, by the time you get to a judge, he has all the work going back to when you first started paying taxes. He actually has the companies and has the incomes. So he can see. That's more an optic thing. And it's kind of like a humanistic thing. Like, why would James go from making $150,000 a year or $75,000 a year, slowly getting all the way down to $30,000 a year, because this is the only thing he can do, is this very sedentary kind of low-paying job because he can't do more. Who would choose to do that? From making all that other income and a great job, who would choose to get a much lower job and watch it and the progression going down? So don't worry about that. That is definitely available. The lower levels, they're not allowed to have discretion and think about feelings and common sense things. They have to kind of go by a checkbox type of scenario, in a way. More so, I should say. Less discretion. Person on YouTube, 33. Gotta love that anonymity. So we don't need to worry after all the videos for clicks or fear mongering. I'm just listen to what I said. Why create worry about something that's not in evidence if it's not here? What's it going to do for you? And I haven't seen evidence. If you have evidence, so be it. That's just not how I roll. I could worry about an earthquake up here on my mountain in Pennsylvania. Haven't seen evidence of it. I don't know that there's been one before. I don't think so. So should I worry about it because it's possible? Because some people say earthquakes are so scary. I'm not gonna. And again, grids can be changed at any time. Like I said, they changed them, for FRA or whatever. But I haven't seen anything from the administration saying that they planned on doing that. There are always people within all the administrations that analyze what the effects would be. Because if it would be a smart thing to do and not hurt a lot of people, they might do it, blah, blah, blah. And that's still going on, for sure. That's their job. But I haven't seen, I'm just saying, I've not seen anything besides fear mongering. And all the articles I've looked at when they were coming up like a couple of weeks ago, none of them had any evidence about it. They just said, this guy was talking about it. So therefore, it was nobody in office or anything. So you could go down every rabbit hole every day on everything in life if we do that. And I'm just not going to do it. I'd never be able to get my job done. and help people with their disability if I did that. Temple says, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Need something similar for stress. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you could create one there, Temple. If it does happen, we will address it at that time, and it does not mean your proofs can't still prove you can't adjust to other work as a 52-year-old, say. Let's say they bumped everything by 2 years and 51 is no longer 50 and 51 were no longer in the grid game. That would be very tough on those folks. But the grid rule is where it creates an automatic thing under certain circumstances. Perhaps it would be like you can still have that same resolution if it is true for you based on things other than automatically assuming. And then we would be working with our clients to make sure that happens for 51-year-olds and 50-year-olds. So we never hang our hat on anything automated when there's other avenues in case the automation doesn't apply. Okay. There's other aspects of the grids that RFC is not automated, right? That's all discretionary. So anyway, I think we will cross that bridge if we ever come to it. And that's how we roll. I'm not going to loosely pervert now. I'm just not. Danny, you heard it. Good, Danny. You don't need any more stress. David Carlin says, Russell Vaught is the person who wants to remove the grid rules. Yeah, and so does probably many other people. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. I mean, removing the grid rules? That's even worse than saying they're going to adjust them. RD says Dolphin says, people who are not healthy back in the day. Everyone smoked and were not to live a long life. They still do. It's called vaping, and I think it's worse. And now kids are doing it. 1983, lung cancer was the big cancer. Still exists. My mother-in-law just died a couple of years ago from smoke-related cancer. Horrible. Was able to quit when she discovered she had it and was going in for surgery the next month. And then died 15 months later. Yeah. So, and I say this as a former smoker. I quit in 2000, so it's been a long time. But for anyone who is still smoking, I guess I'll bring this up. It's helpful if your records show that you are trying to quit. So, and I say that because of the bias I see in some people, which could be adjudicators or judges, some, not most, about particularly a person who claims a lot of pain but is still smoking, and smoking impedes surgical healing, back problems. It is, I think, confirmed that smoking impedes healing. So I think most people, even if they're biased, understand how hard it is to quit smoking. I know I quit so many times before I succeeded. And the only way I succeeded was through a very bizarre bet my father made with me that had to do with some cash. Seriously, money talks, right? Particularly when you need it. And I was young, way younger. And if they see that you are trying, like you talk to your doctor about, because the doctors usually ask you, right? I mean, PCPs, it's like in part of the annual physical. And if one is cut down, come back, working hard to cut down more, maybe trying Chantrix or one of those other things, or doing, just the discussion that you've been trying and maybe cutting back a little bit and trying to do more and all that, it can go a long way. I think I had a case once where I felt like the judge was a little maybe negative on the fact that my client was saying, I have to feed my kids peanut butter because I'm too poor to give them something better. yet he was smoking and spending money on cigarettes. So it's a little hard to claim that you can't feed your kids properly while you're spending money on cigarettes. Anybody follow the reasoning there? I kind of got it. It was unfortunate. And I believe the guy was definitely disabled. He was also under 50, I think. This is like one of my first cases early on. Outfit says, I'm not going to lie to you. Like calm. I'm not going to lie. You are calm like mountain, like water. But Walter not be scared of him. Oh, Walter is always scared of people. I know. You got to go back to old videos and find out which ones didn't pan out. They were fearful. Right? And I love Walter. He's fun. But someone should be tracking which predictions pan out. I have a colleague who tracks sometimes. It's publishers, some of the bigger ones that claim to be unbiased or whatever. And he just did it not that long ago. Which ones? Here are the predictions by so and so in their articles over the last X years or whatever. This one didn't come true. This, after people's heads were spinning and rolling, sometimes it's climate change or whatever. And it's like, and this one didn't, and this one not either. Okay, so, and it's just fun. I don't think anyone's done it for some of the YouTube videos. It's usually for written articles, but I challenge anybody. Just do it. Just do it. I mean, the thing is, if it does happen, is it bad? Yeah, it's bad. Earthquakes on this mountain are bad too, but I don't know. I just don't know that. Now, if it comes down as a proposed rule, like a proposal, like, hey, should we do this? I think everybody should be writing in. Everybody writing in, doing a public comment, right to the SSA, and also contacting their congressman to say, put your 2 cents on, not that Congress can change what the agency does, but they can certainly put their influence and say, no. Everybody should be doing that if there were to be a grid change and not in a good direction. All right. How does that sound? All right. We're getting down to the end. I think we are at the end, guys. It's 20 after 3. We're in here for 2 hours and 23 minutes. Oh, half pint. You're very sweet. Okay. So I'll be talking to you very soon, half pint. Oh, you look amazing. Well, I actually don't, but I appreciate that. And definitely filters. Who would be up here? It would be so distracting if you saw me without a filter. You'd be like, look at the freckles and the wrinkles and, I look puffy enough, with my puppy eyes with the filter. So anywho, guys, we're at the end here. I don't see any more questions. That was awesome. I appreciate you all being here and all the questions. And don't forget, 12 o'clock noon for our dailies. And reminder, I posted it in the chat here, but next Wednesday, I'm moving it to 2 o'clock from 1 o'clock. So it's not going to be 1 o'clock, just next Wednesday, because I've got to be at a doctor appointment for my son, and it's like an hour away. And I just didn't know that I would get back in time without speeding. And it's a bad highway. So I made it for 2. And Thanksgiving week, the following week, no Wednesday live stream, but we're going to have a Friday, same time, because I will be traveling and I don't want to speed again. So I just figured I'm just going to knock that off the plate for that day because I'll be driving kind of long distance. So I hope that works for everybody. Next Wednesday at 2, the following week, the day after Thanksgiving, Friday at 1 for the live stream. All right. If you guys have any ideas for any questions that you want, might not be able to give you the answer on a one-on-one, but if it's the kind of question that can be answered in a video, I'm happy to do it. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.